Back to the football.
Sure.
Of course.
Back to the football.
Back on track. Back to the football. Who is the league's MVP, Zoe? Tell me your MVP right now.
Patrick Mahomes.
Right now, Patrick Mahomes.
It's one of those years where you're like, I guess.
Yeah, it's like an I guess.
Is there someone obvious, Bert?
No, I
There
would
is a
say-
team that hasn't lost a game yet.
Yeah, I know. Could be.
I don't see anybody in that team being an MVP.
But I look at Mahomes and like they lost Tyreek Hill. So you lost a guy who was like I would say probably the most dangerous weapon in football. And he hasn't missed a beat.
By the way, these awards in general are awards I do not at all care about and cannot remember who won them. But it's fun just to talk about it in the moment.
Isn't it amazing?
Who's been the best player at this point in the season? I'd give it to Mahomes, as would 20 and a half executives. Who the hell split their vote? Who does that?
We might have had more than one. Like there were a couple where it was more than.
So someone
Mahomes
here's what happened. Josh Allen had 5.5 votes,
Mahomes
which means
had
someone said co-MVPs.
Mahomes
Allen
had like a
Mahomes.
half vote on that. He split that vote with Allen.
Yeah.
So there was one where
All right.
it was
Okay.
So Brady was the
So
MVP.
what surprised
a
me
year
about
ago.
Mahomes, so Mahomes got more than half the vote, right? Jalen Hurts was number 2.
With 8 votes. Josh Allen had 5.5.
And
Lamar
I thought
Jackson
Jalen
with
Hurts
2.
Jalen
Derrick
Hurts
Henry
being number
with
2
1.
was interesting. Like that they felt like that again, football people paid to break this stuff down and look at it would think Hurts is number 2.
If they have 2 losses, he's not even in discussion.
That's
I'm sorry.
possible, yeah.
So Brady was the MVP last year, obviously, the entire year. This is the first time I don't know how many years
Rodgers
at
was the
the
MVP.
at the
I
mid.
was going to say, was he?
Rodgers was MVP last
Brady
year.
won it last year.
No, Rodgers won it.
You're right.
See? That proves the point.
Right.
Can't even remember.
Can't even
when
remember.
he
But,
started.
but to my point, if you bring up Rodgers, it's like the first time in 10 years these two aren't even in the top 10 discussion.
Right.
Brady or Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean, like they didn't get votes here. So the 5 guys who got votes, Mahomes at 20.5, Hurts at 8, Allen at 5.5, Lamar with 2, and I think Lamar's deserving based on like how injured they've been around him and how much they're relying on him. I think Lamar probably deserved even more votes than he got, and then Derrick Henry got a vote to finish 5th.
Offensive Player of the Year, Tyreek Hill took 24 votes.
Runaway,
in
yeah.
that category. Runaway.
That's always a complicated one too because
it's like non-quarterback.
MVP.
right. It's like, yeah.
But how's he not
how do you
MVP?
differentiate that from MVP? Yeah, but
Non-quarterback is how I would do it.
But I mean, Hill is on pace to have over 2,000 yards receiving, which is insane. And you think about the degree of difficulty with Tyreek too. Every single defense, every single opponent is gearing up to stop him. Like when they get together and game plan on Tuesday, like the first thing they're doing is how do we deal with this guy? And he's still on pace for over 2,000 yards. Which would be the first.
Defensive Player of the Year with
This is another runaway.
27.5 votes. There was a vote split between, it was Jeffrey Simmons and Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons with 27.5 votes, runaway for Defensive Player of the Year.
The second place might interest people.
It is, and you know what? It relates back to what we were talking about earlier because Pro Football Focus has this individual ranked as 7th best on the Patriots roster to this point in the season. That would be Matthew Judon, who finished 2nd in this voting. He had 4 votes ahead of Nick Bosa, ahead of Simmons, ahead of Myles Garrett, who has been, if you've been watching the Browns, Myles Garrett has been
A monster.
just a wrecking ball.
Hardy, Judon finishes that high, but he's 7th on your team, according to Pro Football Focus, because they focus on football.
Judon, 2nd.
Yeah.
Judon's 2nd in the league.
And I can tell you, I mean, I
Seventh
one
on
thing
your Patriot team that's 5-4.
I mean, like that means 4 separate people.
Nick Folk's not on it.
4 separate people voted for him.
We made fun of Pro Football Focus all morning. Yeah. There's the rankings.
The rankings can be really weird. With
Can
that.
they?
All right, keep going.
Offensive Rookie of the Year,
It's kind of like not gonna
throwaway
excite people.
category.
Yeah, not gonna be. People aren't gonna be excited about this one, but
You want to venture a guess?
Zappy.
No. Damian Pierce won that from the Texans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He is 6th in the league in rushing yards. He's averaging 4.6 yards a carry, and his team sucks.
his you know what the incredible stat with him though was? You can look at it in there. 58 broken tackles. That's pretty amazing. So that's between 6 and 7 tackles broken a game for a guy who's averaging between 16 and 17 carries. So like almost half of his carries, he's breaking a tackle.
Defensive Rookie of the Year in a runaway. Jets cornerback Sauce Gardner, 28 votes. Kid's really good.
Yep.
And then we will get to Coach of the Year and Executive of the Year. Coach and Executive of the Year. How does that break down? We'll tell you about that coming up. 20 GMs, 38 executives in all. The winner of Coach of the Year, Brian Daboll. 14 of the votes. Nick Sirianni got 9. Pete Carroll got 6.5 votes.
Okay.
Other guys receiving votes, Robert Saleh, Mike Vrabel, Kevin O'Connell, Mike McDaniel, and Andy Reid. Executive of the Year. The winner was Eagles GM Howie Roseman.
Oh, okay.
He likes both chocolate and vanilla. 16 votes for him.
Okay. Where'd Chris Greer come in?
We'll get there.
All right.
16 votes for him, but it was close. I think this is the closest voting in all of the polling.
Yeah, that was.
Number 2 is John Schneider, Seahawks GM.
Who traded
with
Russell Wilson and who built that.
15 votes. Jets GM Joe Douglas got 4. Chris Greer got 2.
Okay.
And Brandon Beane got a vote as well in Buffalo.
So all three of the guys in the AFC East who have the general manager title got votes.
So Coach of the Year, Pete Carroll finishes 3rd. Executive of the Year, Seahawks GM John Schneider finishes 2nd in a vote that came down to the wire.
I mean, I give Pete a lot of credit and Schneider a lot of credit for what they're doing out west because that division was supposed to be loaded. San Francisco has a lot of talent. Rams spend all their damn money. They'll go out and get every free agent available. There were such high hopes in Arizona. It seems like with Kingsbury. I wonder by the time
Hard Knocks could be interesting. That in-season Hard Knocks could wind up being interesting.
Do you think there's a chance by the time we get to Arizona that they could pop Cliff?
I don't think so, but I think because that ownership
You
has
understand why I'm saying that, though? Yeah, I mean,
that ownership has been, I think, thrifty was the right way to phrase it. Over the years, they just signed those guys to new deals through 2027.
Okay.
So they'd have to eat a lot of contract to do it. That said, there's a new reality in the NFL. The TV money is even bigger than it's ever been before. So are owners a little bit more willing now to eat contract because they have the cash to do it?
Right.
Maybe they would be. It's a weird situation there with the quarterback, with the coach. I mean, the whole thing is, and I don't think Cliff's a bad offensive coach. I think that there are some similarities there to Denver in where the quarterback's got a fair amount of control and the quarterback might not be the most popular person in the building, if that makes sense.